Last 25 years since I've been in the product world, in the financial services world, in SaaS and B2B world, product has evolved over time. And it has taken its baby steps, it's grown, again come back to baby steps. So I'm still trying to understand where we are on the overall product management journey in India. So I think this panel will really help us decode. I will quickly do an introduction. They're all very illustrious leaders. Not much I can say, but Seema heads retail analytics in Fractal and has had a very rich career in terms of doing a variety of roles across product life cycle herself. I think she can relate to a lot of questions that are coming from the organization, from the stage about various stages and various technical skill sets, non-technical skill sets that you bring into the role. So Seema would love to explore that with you. And Srishti is our coming in from Oracle, one of the largest global product development organizations, and she runs a very large product organization and also mentors a lot of individuals and groups across the industry. I've had the privilege of talking to Srishti as part of our product skills charter, and she does a phenomenal job of bringing up product professionals from a very different stage all the way up to leadership careers across the globe. So would love to explore that with you, Srishti. Thank you for joining. Ram has a dual role. He runs a VMware India, and he has had a very illustrious product journey throughout the India product management evolution through Yahoo, eBay, and VMware, and many more in between. And also is our current running chair of NASSCOM Product Council, has been guiding all these charters for us. So would love to hear his views from his vantage point. So thanks again, welcome to the panel. Let me start with a common question with all three of you. When we talk about product management and decoding product management, especially when you start looking at job descriptions, the one thing you see is very specific call-outs as to we need experience of so-and-so in B2B. We need experience of so-and-so in B2C. So want to start exploring what does it mean in terms of flavors of product management, how different and how similar they are in these individual verticals, even beyond sectors from a just models perspective. So would love to hear all your thoughts. Seema, you want to start, please?
Sure. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me just tell you my experience. I've been overall 24 years of experience and in retail industry. And out of that, I was hardcore retail professional for 8 years and 16 years into the retail product management role, right? So my experience is that the product management role, it's not only vary from the, whether it's a SaaS company or the enterprise level of company, a startup company, or it is from industry type, whether it's the retail to the pharma to the B2B technical product you are making, but it also vary the kind of product you are making it, who is the end user is there, right? So there are certain roles which are very core of the product management role, which will always be there. And there are certain peripheral role which you will have overlapping it, depend on the industry you are. Okay, so let me tell you the three basic role, which you need to deal it with when you are into the product management role. Is one is your tech skill, right? And somebody asked me the question that I'm not a engineer, but can I be product manager? Yes, you can, right? Because you really do not need to know the coding. You really do not need to write any code there, but you need to understand the engineering in the sense that what is the data back is there, so that whatever the solution you are crafting out, whether it is viable or not with the data availability and the data sufficiency, you need to be able to understand the engineering in perspective that you are able to communicate your engineering team efficiently. You are able to explain the product requirement efficiently, not you have to code. And help them to, decode it, help them to remove the barrier every day when they were stuck, okay? And the second thing is required your UX. And, somebody says that I am a UX person, behavioral design. Excellent skill you already have. So imagine you are an engineer, but you do not have the behavioral skill, You do not have that skill. What you will do as a product manager? You can't. Today, I'll tell you, in the market, there are many, many products from the big company, but not been adopted well by the end user because of lack of the user experience in those products. Okay? We need to have a mindset of how the user is going to use it, right? Keeping that into the mind, if you are designing your product, the designing part, the behavioral skill, extremely important. And today, whether it's a small company or the big company, the product are winner only if they have incorporated the right kind of designing. That's the must skill, not the engineering skill, okay? And the third I would say, which is very, very important, is the domain and the business standing, okay? If you are making a tech product, you are making a, suppose, self-service platform, you need to understand your tech skills. So you need to be a tech capability, right? It will be very hard for you to do it, that product, without having the tech understanding. But if you are into the business domain industry product, suppose for retail, CPG industry, pharma, then you need to understand that domain, okay? And if you have that, you're coming from the pharma industry, go into the company which is making a product for the pharma. You're well fitted there, right? You have already two skills, business user perspective as well as the user perspective, the designing perspective, and you can pick it up the tech skill, which is very, very easy. Because as Pallavi mentioned that we have, education is not a barrier today. We have so many places to learn it. Plus, when you are into the organization, you have 80% people around you are engineer, tech. Sit with them, understand what they're doing day into day night, right? Try to understand how they decode the problem. You will understand the engineering, the tech part, what you require as a product manager. Okay, that's good enough. And I just wanted to probably finish it with the last statement. I personally believe every woman is by birth as a product manager. Okay? Every woman, who manage a home is a product, okay, is a product manager. Because as a product manager, you do not only have to conceptualize, design, or develop a product or take it to the market, but you have to coordinate with the multiple stakeholders and meet the expectation of the organization with respect to your product success and revenue generation. And that a woman does day and night into the home.
Very
right?
nicely said, Seema.
So that soft skill you have. So please remember that you're better than all the rest of the people in any way. Okay? All the best.
Thanks, Seema. That was really well put. I think a quick takeaway from your perspective was that you have core product skills, but problem solving and design, these are all very, very cross-industry skills that we will anyway have to develop. While there are business-specific and vertical-specific skills that we'll have to get into, and that's mandatory. The same question, Srishti, but also would love your perspective on thinking about the next generation of product talent that is coming into the marketplace, right? So one is we have a set of challenges and experiences that we come in when you are in 10, 15 years in a certain industry and you are to transition into product management. But what about the brand new talent that is coming in out of, fresh out of your universities? How do you look at that and in the perspective, and how do you help decode product management for them? That would be lovely to hear.
Thanks, and happy to be here and talk about this important subject. I think innovation is something that is really important, right? And the way I think of the product role is really around helping innovate. And if I step back and I was just thinking about product managers I have hired, worked with over my career, frankly, it's not been, I felt that, unless you're going into very deep, I think that what you're looking for is not always just domain. You need somebody to be able to do that skill set, that confidence in an interview. Let me just put it the other way around, right? I mean, when I'm interviewing people, sure, the job description talks about industry experience. Will I just not talk to somebody if I find their resume very exciting and it's missing the domain? No, right? I'm just giving you my personal perspective, right? So I think for me, what I have seen is, and then, as Seema mentioned, I mean, they're core skills, right, that you're expecting people to bring to the table. A lot of it is really around out-of-the-box thinking. A lot of it is around being able to relate to the product and kind of have a story, even if you've done it in a different domain. You know, if you kind of have that ability to have a perspective, have a point of view. I mean, I think the most critical part of being a product manager and a skill is really whatever it is, whether you study on Friday, you talk to people, you attend the session, whatever is your technique. But ultimately, if you're able to have a point of view, I think that's what people are looking for, right? Because there is no right or wrong in a lot of these things, right? It's really just about, do you have a point of view? And I tell my team all the time, and I do that same to my upper management, like it's easier for people to say yes, right? Like if you just kind of like present everything, it's easier for anybody to say yes than kind of, you know, asking anybody 20 questions, right? So I think developing that is important, whatever is your skill, and expertise helps. So I'm not discounting the fact that, you know, you've spent 15 years in an industry and you kind of become a subject matter expert. And so you get a little bit more credit, you know, like your point of view will have a little bit more credibility. That's what ends up happening, right? Like let's say I'm speaking and I say, oh, I have 25 years of experience in enterprise and consumer. If I say something, maybe it has a weight and a credibility because I've done it, right? I mean, that's what I'm bringing to the table. But am I innovative? Do I have out-of-the-box thinking? Is really who I am, right? And that I have to continue to develop independent of the years getting added in my career. Coming to the younger generation and kids coming out of school, I mean, it's really, really exciting. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the US and some time in India. So my perspective is a little global. I'm not talking about India specific, but I see India is not unique. Like, I find it so easy to work here or work in the Bay Area. I don't even find it different. So all I can say is that the world is sort of coming together. So I don't know if there's an India-specific tip I have. But what I see is that, you know, we are hiring a lot of liberal arts students. We are hiring people from a lot of different backgrounds in product roles. I've just okayed 2 internships for, you know, kids who've just, you know, joining from Duke University in my team from product management in the US, this happens to be, right? But my point being that I don't think, you know, technology is an enabler. I mean, by degree, I'm a computer science engineer. I've done that. But you know, I don't think that in this new age and world, we are restricting it to saying it has to be tech only. Really, consumerism, globalism, you know, all of that is coming in. So everybody is going to be more experimental around general skills and ability to learn on the job a lot more. It's already happening in other parts of the world. In India, it's an advantage or a disadvantage, I don't know. We just have a strong tech education culture, right? So our biggest bench strength, if you will, for product management ends up coming from tech. Which is not the case in many other countries. So you're getting English literature students who are, you know, also writing code. But so again, it's not a disadvantage if you're tech, but I think gradually the openness for global companies, at least, to experiment with people from any of these schemes, if they bring something to the table, will be more, is what I'm thinking.
That's brilliant. So, having a point of view, I guess that's something which we have to hone in as a muscle. And this is something which I've heard very repeatedly even from Ram, that, you know, fact is you will get a lot of data everywhere, but do you have a point of view? Do you have the ability to create a point of view? I think that was brilliant. And I think what we are hearing, which is great news, is it's not about the background you come in. Use that as your strength and leverage it. But it's really about those core problem-solving skills, thinking on feet, and ability to bring people along to a decision. I think that's what, Srishti, you spoke about. Thank you. Ram, to pivot, the same question, but also would love to hear your perspective on how we have evolved this in India. And because we have had certain organizational constructs and biases, etc., and you've seen it through a lot of these organizations. Would love to hear your view, both from the NASSCOM standpoint, as you're seeing a wide variety, and from your own VMware experience.
Thank you, and all great points made by my colleagues here on the stage. First of all, I think there's one big difference. I was told I'm the only male speaker the entire day. So I feel special, right? Which I think itself is a very telling piece. Because a few years ago, you know, you would have had this entire panel being male speakers speaking to a bunch of women in the audience. And that I think is first of all, the biggest change that we want to see in the ecosystem. And that is why hence all of you are here today, because our focus, and we don't want a bunch of men solving women's problems. I mean, that is not the answer here. So while we can help, we can support, we will be, allies, we will do everything that's necessary to create an atmosphere. We are, very grateful to have somebody like Shalini who's actually leading our product skills effort. She's a phenomenal leader and who's just switched jobs and who took the time here with a backache to actually make it all the way from Whitefield to MG Road. So in Bangalore, that's, been discussing all kinds of other things. But having said all of that, great points made, 3 vectors to the way I think about it, and I think very well articulated, which is, there's a set of skills, and I call them, your toolbox, which are, which needs to be there for a product manager and for somebody who's working in product as a whole. It's not just about engineers. In fact, one of the things I keep telling engineers is, you need to grow beyond the how and get to know the what and the why, because that'll just make you a better engineer. Product managers naturally gravitate towards the what and the why and less so about the how, and which is why it depends on which is the second vector, which is the domain that you're working in. If you're in a B2B infrastructure kind of a product management role, you have to be a little more technical than somebody who's in the consumer internet, front-facing, customer-facing part. One of my previous jobs, I was leading a very large set of product management and product marketing teams in consumer internet. And a majority of my leaders were all women, right? And many of them did not have an engineering degree. So the thing is, we have to take a look at what is it that the work is. That doesn't mean that somebody with a non-engineering degree cannot be working in deep, infrastructure work. You just have to get yourself more technical or understand the subject matter, because that's required. The third piece is the domain part, right? What kind of vertical are you going to be working in? If it's in e-commerce, it's one set of experiences you need to have. If you're in, search, it's a different set of experiences. If you're working something else. So it depends on what industry you're working in. And if you're working in pharma, maybe, product management skills may still apply, but you really need to understand that domain very well, right? So these are 3 different vectors. They intersect at some point, and that's what makes somebody, really valuable and grow. One of the things is, I can talk about a little bit about my own personal journey. Right? When I got my first job, so I had already been working for about 12 years as an engineer. When I went back to business school during that time, and I decided, okay, I'm going to switch careers now, and I joined Microsoft. I did not know, back then, the term product manager was not as well known. So, I interviewed on campus, I got a job with Microsoft, and they said, oh, we're going to call you a product manager. I said, fine. And by the time I reached, they changed my title to a program manager. And I'm like, okay, what happened here? So it turns out Microsoft program managers actually are product managers. So that's a different story. But the thing is, I had no knowledge, right? The reason I'm bringing that to a personal journey is that it is not about, you don't grow with these skills, you're not born with them, nor are you, sometimes your jobs don't necessarily train you for what you need to do. But to Shrishti's point, I think what I learned is, how do you look at disparate pieces of information? And I think the point made earlier about data. How do I look at things and form a perspective, which is the point of view that Shrishti talked about? To me, the great product managers always have a point of view, and they're not shy about it, not because they're right. If they think they're right, there's a problem. But most of the time, it is because you're trying to validate it. And you have to speak up, right? So the second skill that I would talk about is communication skills. Again, it is trained. Not everybody is a natural born speaker. I certainly was not. Okay, I could not sit in front of an audience. I could not stand up in front of an audience and talk for the first 5-6 years of my career. I never participated in any debating in school or anything else. But what triggered it was, I became an entrepreneur fairly early, and the only way I could put food on the table in the US, I was in the US, was I had to get comfortable with the fact that I had to cold call people to actually get my job done. So there are triggers that will do that, right? Not everybody's got the same triggers, but by the intent of the fact that you have to be a great communicator. Oral, written, non-verbal skills, putting others comfortable, making them comfortable, being able to get your point across. I think great communication skills are a hallmark of product managers. Okay, and it's not about just speaking all the time, right, or telling everybody what to do. It is really about extracting the best you can out of people. So if you walk into a room and you're the only one speaking, there is a problem. You have to be able to get others to speak up. It's not about you, it's about the others. Can we get people together to actually work together, right? And be able to do these kinds of things. Again, not a natural instinct for a lot of people, but you have to train yourself, whether you do formal training, whether you get involved in industry body kind of work where you are now forced to interact with people, you have to be able to do those kinds of things. Third, again, this is another point which is about understanding how do you extract the soft signals from your customer base, from your user base. Nowadays, of course, a lot of times you don't actually see your customers, for various reasons. But there are other ways of extracting that data. If a customer is telling you what to build and as a product manager you build it, you're doing something wrong. Because 99% of the time the loudest voice gets to design what feature gets built, and which is not necessarily where the actual market is. So one of the abilities is, one is to extract that thing, the other one is to say no, right? Which speaks to courage. Do you have the courage to stand up for what you believe in, right? And I think this applies in life as well, as we all know. Have you, so which means that you need to have a point of view, you need to have validated it through various other perspectives, you need to have good communication skills, and lastly, you have to have the courage to stand up for what you believe is right. Right? It's not easy, by the way. I mean, it's not, as we know, right? It's not easy to say no. It's very easy to say yes through everybody is coming at you. You have to be able to say no because you believe that you've validated your ideas, you stand behind it, and that is another hallmark of a great product leader. Because the product management function is a very difficult function. When I talk to a lot of people who want to become product managers, I say, why do you want to become a product manager? And they say, oh, it's a cool role. And I'll tell you, as many of the people on the stage here will attest to it, 99% of your job is a grunge work. It's nose to the wheel, getting a lot of things done. I tell aspiring product managers and product managers in function, if the engineering team is failing, it's because of the product management function. So you take the blame as well, right? You got, success is the team effort. Failure is yours. But the reason I bring all of this up is, it also makes for great leadership skills. So it's not by accident that you find a lot of people with product management backgrounds who actually climb up to do things. I don't do product anymore. I mean, I'm not a product manager anymore functionally, right? I don't run a product organization. But to me, whatever I touch is a product. So I head VMware. We are one of the largest presence in India. For us, it's 1/4 of the company, 1/3 of our engineering workforce or product workforce. But to me, that's a product. And when I took the job 4.5 years ago, I inherited what I did, right? And then I said, okay, how do we build on what we have? And that's what we've been on the journey. We've been on a product. So we have a roadmap. We follow the processes. We say no to a lot of things, and we manage that. So the last point that Shalini asked me to talk about is this: why are we here today, right? On NASSCOM and as an industry body, our focus as a product council is to say, can we have companies from India at all sizes, right, who deliver about $100 billion of revenue globally, which will represent roughly 10% of global revenue of products in the product space, right? About $1 trillion by 2030 is the projection, 10%, or $1 trillion of value, right? And then we want to be at, several $billion of that. But more importantly, can we have companies out of India which are probably 1 or 2 in the product market space that they are in? We keep, many years ago, we used to keep talking, and we still do sometimes, oh, when will the next Microsoft come from India? Or when will the next Oracle come from India? Or when will the next Google come from India? I don't buy that. I think the next generation of companies that come from India, perhaps, will define their own course. It doesn't need to be another Google or another Microsoft. The world is very large and the world is changing. There's a lot of opportunities in front of us. But that's fine. We can put a stake in the ground. But what will get us there is people who are in this room. And that is not by accident. We have to ensure that we are building the cadres, we are building the support system, we are building the ability to bring forward. And one last point, I just came out of a meeting a little earlier today with one of the MNCs who's trying to expand in India. The number one question they asked me, can we hire product management leaders here? And I said, yes, but in what time frame? Because what I mean by that is we have great people in the emerging ranks, a lot of young people who are getting into product management. young both in experience and in age, and either or. Second is we have, from those cohorts that have been on the journey earlier, we have a very strong, I think, middle base coming up, middle experience. But do we have chief product officers from India, of global companies, chief marketing officers, chief product marketing officers? No. That in my mind is the opportunity. Companies are hungry, there's opportunities out there, Indian companies who are scaling, MNCs who are coming here. Take advantage of it. And let's see where we are in a couple of years. And I told them, wait, India changes every 2 years. So what is not true today, 2 years from now, it will be true. So don't lose heart. It's not an either or, it's not a black and white. Just stay with us. Thank you.
Love that last statement, Ram. Love it. I'll probably do a quick rapid fire for three of you. First question, there are so many unexplored industries, sectors, areas coming up, especially even if you just look at India domestic landscape. We talk of space tech, drone tech, and so in these unexplored areas, if you were to pick your top area of growth and where as women product champions, we can start leading the way instead of just catching up in many other traditional sectors. Any ideas? Which sectors, which unexplored areas where there's humongous opportunities, today not much has been done, something to think through. I just want to look at it as a forward-looking statement. Ram, you want to start?
I don't know if there's one area, but I think there's a lot of emerging areas. There are a lot of areas which people think that's already done, which is not. Healthcare being one, for example. I'll just pick one, right? I know nothing much about healthcare, but I've been, working with, I'm on the board of a company, etc. So I'm also learning. So I think the point here is pick your interest. If you're into sports, I think there's a lot of opportunities. Health tech, mental health. There's a lot of things that are emerging areas. Of course, if you're into drones and you love to do that, there's that. There's gaming. There's a lot of areas. It all comes down to what you're interested in, what you want to work in.
That's a huge canvas. So I think that's great to hear. Srishti, what about you?
Yeah, again, I think there is a lot to do. One area that I have found, interestingly, women being quite good naturally, is AI and ML. So I don't know if you all feel that way about yourselves, but all that I have been exposed to, I feel like in pattern recognition, my chief data scientist is a woman. When we hire, it ends up being there more women who just pass the interview. Let me just say it that way. So I do think it's good. It's an area, and now today, as we look at any area, patterns, just how to think about it would be another way to explore. Again, you pick what you are interested in. But I do think that maybe keep the whole AI ML in mind and see if that's something that you're inclined towards. I think there is some natural aptitude there, is my reading.
That's lovely. How about you, Seema?
Yeah. So if you wanted to, join as a youngster, I would say that you should look at the area where it is growing, where you can enjoy the work, where people are starving for your skills coming in, not the one which is already saturated, right? So one, definitely, I'll take it for the Shrishti says, my point of view as well, tech industry, and within tech, AI, ML is grooming, that's the really happening area. But within the AI, ML, if you want to have a domain-centric, then the domain which is growing is more the consumer-facing industry, right? So if you are into the consumer-facing industry, in a tech consumer-facing industry, I think this is a perfect match for you to grow your career, and enjoy it.
Lovely, Seema. So you may have a lot of takers, by the way. And another interesting one, right? So I'm seeing personally in my experience, femtech, which is coming up, right? You really can't have men driving femtech. Femtech is about female technology. So I'm saying there are sectors which are coming up, which is, wellness about maternity and women. So I think there are some sectors which have absolutely not been touched. Phenomenal entrepreneurial opportunities. And there are some super traditional male-dominated sectors purely because that's how it was. Trash management, garbage management in Bangalore. Forget men, women, nobody will touch it, right? So, but these are problems today sitting there unsolved and having billions of dollars worth of opportunities plus society impact. So I think there is so much to do. So with that forward-looking thought, I will kind of conclude the session. Shreya is giving me signals we're over. But this was such a phenomenal panel. Thank you so much. I would love to welcome questions.
Yeah, audience, quick questions. Yes, please. Just tell your name also.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes. So my name is Kopal, and I'm working as a product manager. It has been like few months only till now. So my organization is a B2B SaaS organization which caters to hospitals in US. And one prominent problem that I have realized in these few months is that since it's a B2B space, we have a lot of clients who are using our product in different ways based on their staff members, etc. So one problem that we face is that a lot of times one client will say that we want this feature, it's very helpful. The other client will say that the same feature is not helpful and they just want to get rid of it. Now there is a limit to the customizations that we can provide in a particular product. So how do you suggest we tackle these situations? Because we are afraid to taking something off from the product because one client is already using it. If it was like a B2C space, we might not be bothered about one person complaining. But in a B2B space, we'll have to bother about every client. So how do you think we can cater to this problem?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I come from Oracle, which is quite heavily B2B, and we deal with the SaaS kind of problems all the time. I don't know, you know, which exact company, what you're talking about, but, you know, ultimately you cannot please all, and it'll reach there. Now, if you're very new, you'll say yes to your first 5, 6, 7. When they become 1,000, it's going to become hard. And hopefully, if you're a successful multi-tenant SaaS solution, you will have thousands of customers. So I think it becomes the other way around, where I think Ram mentioned, right? If you build everything that your customer says you're not successful, you kind of have to take that to heart a little bit when you're at that right revenue position and you can make those calls. But essentially, you'll have to, as an organization, say this is how you need to run your workflow. And it becomes about selling your idea into these companies with your point of view around how this workflow should really work and how it'll be more efficient for them. Right? So I think gradually that's really the journey of SaaS, multi-tenant enterprise solution, where nobody can please all, and it's really gradually, I mean, it's not like you're not taking input, but it gradually becomes around coming up with that workflow which you believe, I mean, ultimately you're building product, so you kind of have to have the thing to work. It's around that journey, right? So I think that's really the cycle. As the product matures, you'll have to get there and like show the leadership, if you will, right, in that product area. But Ram, you want to add?
Just to add to that, right, there are a couple of ways of thinking about this. I don't know how many customers you have overall. One thing to look at is there a way to segment the customers? So maybe you have two different classes of customers who are asking for one is asking, one is not asking, right? So is there a segmentation there potentially? You don't have to answer it. I'm just saying, that's one way to think about it. Second one is you have to have a clear idea on where you want to take your product. Who is it catering to? Who is it for? So you may get somebody from a revenue perspective, you may make some, trade-offs to say, hey, somebody is willing to pay me, but they're not my core customer, I'm going to go ahead and do it. That you have to guard against, because if you're really true to where you want to take your product, you need to start to catering to the customer base that you actually are going after. So that's the other reason to look at, to say, hey, do I do this, not do this, right? Third is, at some point, you will reach a stage, let's say early stages, you make those accommodations, you start to build features, because you don't know what will work, not work, right? So whether you're pre-product market fit, post-product market fit is a very good time to look at this. At some point, you have to realize you may have to kill the feature because it's not working. So I think it's not a very straightforward answer, and maybe you're not getting the answer you're looking for, but there is no black and white answer here. And that is why you need to work through it. You have to look at it from various angles. You have to take a look and see, what you do. But at some point, you have to say, this customer is not worth keeping for what they're bringing, because that's not the direction I want to go. It's okay to say no. And you take the feature out. And knowing that the customer will exit, that's fine. It's
I'll
okay.
just give you a small tip on that. Very, very helpful. So sometimes the customer asks the feature, it may not be must to have for them. It is just nice to have, right? Okay. So it's now you to segregate how important is that feature for the customer, right? And validate when you put the money against that. Okay. So okay, you say this is not a very important feature for my product, but I'm ready to do it for you as a customization, and you have to pay X amount for that. I will do it. Else you say that yes, what you asked is a very good feature. It can help to my product as well. I'm taking into my product roadmap now, and this feature as a part of my product cycle will be released by X many weeks later. Okay? He will immediately answer you, whether you do it or not do it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that really helps.
Thanks.
Yeah?
Thank you.
All right.
So I know that we are slightly, behind the schedule. The coffee is ready, and I know that all of you have been sitting for quite some time. So why don't we go outside, stretch our legs? And Ram, Shrishti, and Seema are here. So grab a cup of coffee and casually discuss. If you have more questions, they are here. So thank you once again, Ram, Shrishti, Seema, and Shalini for the wonderful panel. Thank you so much.